The Atelier series is one of the longest ongoing franchises in video game history, with over 27 main games. We've seen a lot of franchises stand up to the test of time and continue to share with us many of their titles. And the coming of Atelier Yumia continues to cement that forward momentum. But because a franchise has existed for so long, visions sometimes change, whether it's a reflection of the times or the need to shake things up. With Atelier Yumia changing up its turn-based combat format for action, it makes you think about the franchises that made the shift and those who stuck to a tried and tested format. Welcome to Gaming Backlog. I'm Bina, and let's talk about that. The Atelier series was developed by Gust Corporation, a division of Koei Tecmo. Its first game dates all the way back in 1997, Atelier Marie, The Alchemist of Salzburg, and started distributing internationally with Atelier Iris, Eternal Mana. Eventually, it was Atelier Ryza and the Secret series that brought the franchise into a whole new level of popularity, Ryza becoming one of the most sold games of the franchise. The series consists of standalone games, with each story centered on a young woman, alchemy, friendship, etc., etc. We discuss it, but we all know you're here for the combat. For the longest time, Atelier always had turn-based combat, a popular style for RPG games. The way it goes is pretty explanatory, we think. Execute an action or two, then your turn ends. Rinse and repeat. All the older games were turn-based, but when Ryza came along, it adapted an active time battle system for the first time. With active time battle, elements of the original turn-based were retained, albeit implemented with a time bar that instills a little bit of urgency. So even with the slight changes, people could still argue that it stayed true to the formula of the earlier titles. What people love about turn-based combat is that it allows you to take your time strategizing your moves. It's more like chess than suddenly being put into a football field and you have the ball with a bunch of athletes gunning for you. Turn-based players love that they can really optimize their battle plan as much as they can, maximizing whatever move or ability is in their arsenal. Some players find this certain combat style a comfort of sorts, something accessible to those who can easily get overwhelmed or just don't feel like action is their thing. But here comes Atelier Yumia. Yumia now uses real-time combat, keeping players on their feet. Versus ample time to plan, you're thrust into the thick of it with nothing but your instincts in making quick decisions, and practice the more you play. Also, if you want to know more about what we think about the game, check out our video all about Atelier Yumia. Action gameplay can sometimes be overstimulating. At least I know it can be personally. There can be a lot going on that it can be hard to absorb what is going on, let alone try to figure out your next move all in a split second. If we consider the fact that Yumia is having its international release, it being an action game might make the game more accessible. Action combat mechanics can be very instinctive, and it might allow players to just get into things versus in a turn-based format where you need to learn the mechanics more thoroughly. In a way, perhaps it's a way to spread the word on the series to hopefully grow its community more, and will then lead new fans to the older games. But of course, these thoughts are very much just our own ideas on the changes. What do the people over at Gust actually feel about it? In an interview with Noisy Pixel, producer Junzo Hosoy addressed the shift. Atelier traditionally leans toward turn-based RPG systems, so finding the right balance between real-time action and strategic depth was definitely a challenge. We arrived at a system that retained the RPG core while offering more immediate skill-based interaction. He also addressed in an interview with 4Gamer that the team did their best to design combat to be fun and intuitive, to have a bridge between players who love action games and others who aren't experienced in them. And it's not like the rest of the Atelier series will stick to this forever. Hosoy mentioned that the Atelier series will continue to explore both turn-based and real action-heavy games, so long as it fits the project they are working on. They may return to turn-based combat or continue with this entirely new style. And not to mention, the Atelier Marie remake that was released back in 2023, which retained the turn-based style, received very positive acclaim on Steam. I think it's fairly common for games, especially those belonging to long-standing franchises, to try and shake things up. We've seen franchises like Yakuza going the opposite route. Its mainline game is famously known for its action gameplay, but switched things up by going the turn-based route along with their main character change. Success is always a hit or miss when it comes to this sort of shift. But we've seen franchises like Final Fantasy VII, which in itself is already its own kind of franchise, make the big shift in its remakes to critical acclaim. And as a whole, Final Fantasy has been one of the franchises that is completely moving on from its old combat format, especially when you look at their most current title, Final Fantasy XVI. But despite the success of these games, we have to acknowledge that the changes did turn off some people. While some praise the new format, some say that the old system still worked, that the newer system feels more awkward. For FF16, some say that the combat lacked the challenges promised when they said the combat would be very Devil May Cry leaning, like the game was holding back. Also, we talked about these games before, so if you want more detailed reviews about them, check out our channel. On the other hand, there are modern titles that keep to the turn-based combat and find ways to make it unique to their own title. Persona as a whole has always been updating and shaking the formula up within the turn-based umbrella, while keeping it fun and dynamic still. You can see the turn-based combat also thriving in Metaphor ReFantazio, arguably one of the best games to have come out last year, winning Best Role-Playing Game last year in the Game Awards. Turn-based or action? Does it really matter? Of course it does. As we said before, people have left franchises they once loved because of a shift in direction. It's happened more times than we can enumerate. A sudden shift in combat can be a huge turn-off to players, especially with a series that's done the same thing for the longest time. Having a big change is like being splashed with ice-cold water. Why fix something that isn't broken in a sense? Some franchises' combat is sometimes the signature of the series itself. So when something pretty huge changes, it can really shake what makes the series a staple in the first place. However, in the end, people have their preferences and biases. A well-established franchise changing its format on anything, from the combat to art style to storytelling, can always be a bit of a gamble. But sometimes, if you're lucky, changing things up can lead to different discoveries on how much the game can grow. See where hidden potentials in the formulae can lie. If you're even luckier, you could even get an older fan into a different genre of games that they never knew they would like. It is still, of course, a gamble, and public reception is pretty important if the attempt is a hit or miss. If Atelier Yumia makes its new take in gameplay fresh and most importantly fun, I think that would be a win in itself. And like Hosoy said, it doesn't mean that this is the end for turn-based combat. What if they make remakes of their old games? What if Gust finds a way to perfectly amalgamate turn-based and action together? Like Alchemy? Yeah? The best way to find out if it works enough is to simply play the game. See for yourself if you're a fan or not. I think it's good that games try to change things up, because either way, they can return to something that worked in the past, or pushing the boundaries leads to a big eureka moment. Thank you for watching this episode of Gaming Backlog. What do you think of established franchises changing up their formula? Do you have instances where you liked it, disliked it? Tell us in the comments. If you want to follow more content on all things gaming, like this video and subscribe to our channel. This has been Bina, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye!